It is July 15th, 2022, halfway through the month that comes halfway through the year. Here we are tonight on the Wrestling Inc. podcast, talking about the SmackDown, talking about the Rampage that was pre-taped. I'm Glenn Rubenstein. Alfred Konuwa is joining me. NYC Demon Diva Issa said, you know what? If Roman's on the show, I'm not on the show. She's skipping tonight.
Solidarity, ladies and gentlemen.
For the lack of an appearance from our tribal chief.
Yes, we're going to try to make it through the show without her and without Roman, but no guarantees.
Yes, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Before we hop into the wrestling, what is going on in the news?
Oh, there's never a dull moment in the story that is sweeping the nation right now, Glenergy, is WWE's reported move to TV-14. Now, it was reported yesterday by Andrew Zarian that they'd go to TV-14. There seems to be pushback on that report, that it's not going to happen imminently on the next episode of Raw, but it is now expected, according to Wrestling Observer newsletter. While WWE has yet to acknowledge a change in direction, it was confirmed that it was a USA Network decision, so not necessarily WWE, and it's going to be more leaning toward using more profanities rather than bra, panties, nudity, blood, all that type of gore. So it looks like maybe not this coming Monday on Raw, but imminently, within the next couple of weeks, maybe a month, who knows, WWE's going back to TV-14. And it is a USA Network decision based on some technicality of Brock Lesnar saying shit kicker and them having to do the dump button or whatnot. But what do you think about TV-14 in WWE, Glenn? Is this going to save us? Is this going to bring wrestling back mainstream?
I mean, okay. I like gritty programming. I like programming that does not insult my intelligence and is not watered down in any way, shape, or form. I do not think WWE is going to use this in a way to tell more artistic, mature storylines that have more of a basis in reality. I think we're going to get a few new swear words added to the mix, maybe a little more violence, and potentially some really tone-deaf segments that are of a titillating nature. But I don't know that this is not what's wrong with WWE currently. But you know what's weird that I'm thinking about it? I've seen fans that have said this is what's wrong with WWE.
Oh yeah, they're out there.
Yeah, but these are the people that like think about the Attitude Era, and every time I go back and watch Attitude Era stuff, like I'm going, this is not as good as you remember it being. Yes. You know what I mean?
Like, 1,000%.
Yeah, it's just not as good as your memory. It was good at the time.
Yeah, and I think that's a mistake, is people correlate the Attitude Era with the violence and the blood and the sex, and that's why it was so great, whereas it was just these two once-in-a-lifetime stars that nobody's been able to replicate, and a combination of very good storytelling that was of the zeitgeist of smut TV. That's how all 90s TV was, when it comes to smut and all that, sex and violence and stuff like that, but by no means was the TV-14 rating a precursor. Like, arguably the greatest moment of the Attitude Era that everybody remembers, it almost always gets number one as the greatest moment. It was Austin spraying down Vince McMahon with the beer hose. You could do that on TV PG. There's nothing really edgy about that, but it was such a great moment because of all the thought that went into it. And then ironically enough, what I would say now that we're pretty much done with the PG era, the greatest moment of the PG era to me was Becky Lynch, or one of them was Becky Lynch bleeding like a stuffed pig at the top of the ramp, which is not a TV PG moment. But because they had such a great storyline in place, it did not matter in terms of the violence and how it correlated. So it all comes down to the story is the common denominator with this.
I mean, I just see somebody in the writer's room saying, okay, TV-14, what do you got for me? What mature themes? And someone says, what if Austin Theory in his briefcase has cocaine?
Well,
it's... Yeah, but it's going to be like really weak stuff. And it's like, what about instead of everyone calling each other bitch, what other words can we say for TV-14? What? No, we can't say MFer. Okay, that's out. Can't say a C word. Like, what else is there you can say aside from shit on TV-14 that you can't say on TV-PG? Because TV-MA, you can go there. You can get pretty colorful with it, but don't think that we're going to get like fun new insults as part of this.
And they're going to have to turn it up if they want to go TV-14, because with that Money in the Bank briefcase, Seth Rollins, it was heavily implied, had a vibrator in his briefcase. So they're going to have to give us a TV-14 version of that joke.
What if Seth Rollins got really into wearing a thong and nothing else? Because we're TV-14.
Thank you for that visual.
We gotta kick it up a notch. We gotta kick it up a notch. You know, people want edgy content. They want to see new things.
Yeah, we're gonna get more curse words.
Kids love South Park. What are we gonna do to tap into that demographic? Because we're losing it right now. UPN's got a show coming out. It's called Shasta McNasty. Nasty is in the title. How do we compete with this? It's Y2K. Cisco singing about thongs, rapping about thongs. How do we compete with that?
RIP to UPN, and shout out to the Parkers and Moesha.
The Mullets, first episode, they were at a SmackDown taping. How do we top that?
It's a great memory. But yes, I completely agree with your point, Glenn. TV PG, TV-14, obviously. I mean, I've seen this take everywhere. It just, the thing is, if they're going to bleed more, that's fine. Just make me care about the person bleeding. If they're having sex more, that's fine too. Make me care about the people making it clap. As long as I care about the people, then whatever you do with them, whether it's violent, non-violent, it's going to be better. That's all.
Do you think there's talent backstage? Do you think Los Lotharios are like, look, this is holding our gimmick back, that we cannot be, as to quote Two Live Crew, as nasty as we want to be on television? Loosen up the rating.
Yeah, now they can kiss with tongue. So watch out for that. Hide your wives from the Lotharios. They might even do more than kissing. If it's TV-14,
there you go. There might be like some dry humping.
Yeah, we can get it. Get some... Everybody can get it now. Everybody, you can hide your wives. I'm telling you, this is going to be incredible.
Actually, I was going to say NXT 2.0 should be TV-14, because that already is basically Temptation Island.
And that kind of tells you something, in that they're going a kind of edgier direction in terms of sex and sexuality on NXT TV, and it hasn't really improved the ratings over what they were doing last time, because the stories aren't as good and the wrestling isn't as good. So, and another indication that they're not probably going to change much is this was, again, a USA decision. It wasn't necessarily WWE's initiative that Vince McMahon's having one of these moods where he thinks they need to get edgier. This is USA Network, I think, for a highly technical reason, saying we need to go to TV-14 so that we don't have to scramble when Brock Lesnar says shit kicker.
Like, and if that's what you think is wrong with WWE's product, USA, you're going to get what you deserve out of this. When Otis is up there doing the truffle shuffle and they're like, what, we're TV-14 now. This is cool, right?
There's going to be a moment where USA Network's going to be like, okay, guys, you're TVG now. We're going all the way back.
Something. I don't know. It's very weird. Alison Tuckwab, Super Chat, $4.99. How is that going to help the show? And with Vince's situation, trying to bring up the ratings, doing that Monday Night Raw, maybe not the time. You want people to be thinking about WWE and things of a sexual nature. Maybe poor timing.
Yeah, you don't want to make that connection. And hey, maybe they're planning to do an angle based on all this stuff, and it needs to be TV-14. I wouldn't put it past WWE. I know they're being radio silent about this. But you know how combative Vince McMahon can be. Speaking of combative, one of the people he was combative with, Sasha Banks, her asking price is in the streets, and Sasha Banks is commanding a whopping $30,000 per appearance. Get it how you live, girl. Sasha Banks is believed to be released from WWE and has been making some non-WWE appearances as of late. She does have a couple plans. She's got a C2E2 appearance that I believe was announced Wednesday. So Sasha Banks, $30,000 per appearance. Can we get some of that Raj money and get her on this podcast, Glenn? What do you think?
Perhaps. So at a signing, that's for the comic convention, right? She's going to hit the circuit. I mean, I think at $100 a pop, I think she sells 300 meet and greets. And I think they recoup on that. And then there's probably a split additional. And you know, a lot of these, have you done much of the con circuit? Have you visited much? I have not done the new school con circuit. So not only are you paying admission to the convention, she's going to help sell tickets there. Talent doesn't get any of that beyond the guarantee. They don't get any of the door. But then you've got to buy the add-ons for the meet and greet. And then adding further, you have to pay to get something signed or to get a photo in a lot of these cases. So it adds up. And I think there are 300 Sasha stands that for her first appearance. I think there are dirt sheets. I think there are wrestling websites they're going to pay there and just to get a minute with her and ask her a question to try and get a quote they can use. And that's probably $300 well spent, because that'll get picked up in the echo chamber if she says anything remotely of note. I don't know that she's going to be able to do this 52 weekends a year, but for the first one, $30K, absolutely. That is the safe in this uncertain world. That is perhaps the safest investment there is right now.
Yeah, and around the con circuit, it sounds like they think it's a pretty good deal. There's a lot of people running conventions who say that they absolutely would pay that price for Sasha Banks. And these are people who know what everybody's fees are and how people can draw and how they can make a profit off their money. And it's always kind of a gamble. But I think one of the things that's most valuable about Sasha Banks is she has one of the most loyal fan bases of any wrestlers, maybe the most loyal. It's very comparable to Nicki Minaj and how the Barbs just protect her on social media and buy up our merchandise. Sasha Banks has a lot of ready, willing, and able paying customers. And in this time where she's not with WWE, when she's probably not going to be guaranteed to be coming to your town, wherever she shows up, I think they're going to make, I think 300 is being generous. I mean, it's being conservative. I think she could do double that in terms of the amount of people that show up to some of these public appearances, especially early.
What was Undertaker at as peak when he was going to do that Starcast because he didn't know about the affiliation with AEW? I want to say there was a public number about that. I don't want to say it first in case I might know something other people don't. But ballpark,
25,000 per hour.
Yeah, so ballpark doesn't sound off for this.
Yeah, but remember, Undertaker's was per hour. Sasha Banks is just to get Sasha Banks for that session is 30,000. Undertaker, he'll probably be there for 3 hours, let's say, so that's $75,000 right there. But worth it.
Actually, more is that worth it
for the Undertaker? I think it's better value, obviously, with Sasha Banks. But I mean, 25,000 per hour, depending on how long you have him there. You don't want. I mean, I think 75,000.
Hour 4, he's talking about Blue Lives Matter, and like hour 4, Taker gets riots. Taker gets a little punchy in hour 4. You know.
That should be what that show he's doing. That one-man show, just put some Jack Daniels there. And then as it goes on and on, we get to see who he's voting for and all that stuff.
Yeah. Taker, what do you think of Antifa? You know?
It just turns into like an hour-long endorsement of Ron DeSantis.
What else we got in the news?
Finally in the news, this is more of a non-news story, but it is on Wrestling Inc., and it is a pretty sizable update in terms of Triple H. He is back in the fold in the Performance Center and is expected to work with NXT talent, but it has been confirmed that he is not back writing shows. He's still in somewhat of a supportive capacity to Shawn Michaels, who continues to run the show at NXT. By the way, I just saw that Rivals A&E with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. The story's been told a billion times, but I thought they did a fairly good job with it, if not rushed. But it was go check out Rivals on A&E. I thought it was okay. And they're saying that Triple H is not back to writing yet. So he's not necessarily back in a full-time capacity. He did say he was back. He did show up at the Performance Center, and he has been working with NXT, but he's not the overlord that he was in the 1.0 era, Glenn.
Which is a shame. I didn't watch 2.0 this week. How was 2.0 this week?
It was okay. I think you would have really enjoyed it. I was actually really hoping to cover the show with you because it was Cora Jade. Did you heard about what happened, right? It was a big turn where there was a big whodunit for an hour. And, I don't think anybody believed her.
She is the angriest skater girl since Avril Lavigne.
and
Timely references tonight.
They're both still alive because there were death.
I don't know. I heard Avril had a duplicate replacement.
Maybe.
Big conspiracy. Yeah, maybe. But no, look, I want Triple H back. It's weird if he's working more on this collegiate athlete program because that seems like, well, kind of at the beginning, right? When he was in there and he's the son-in-law, former wrestler, and they're like, okay, figure out what you want to do in the company. It could have very easily gone with some glorified position that doesn't really have much impact on things or isn't really public, and he chose talent development. The collegiate program, I mean, and this might speak to the skewed priorities of WWE now. They might think that recruiting collegiate athletes is going to be more lucrative than going with the indie-rific NXT that he so masterfully put together before.
Yeah, and I don't like the idea that it has to be one or the other. I think pro wrestling, like any business, diversity of people is great. So the more pools you have to pick from, great. I'm a big fan of the NIL program. The learning curve is going to be very steep if this is going to be your whole next generation. But let's not act like whether it's Kurt Angle, whether it's Bianca Belair, whether it's Mark Henry, there have been these molds of athletes who became huge stars. And I could see that happening with this class. I just don't like the idea that they're just going to take everybody from one pool of talent with the NIL, but I'm all for it.
Mia Lee, $4.99, saying Ember looks so stupid on AEW and I loved her. That match was insultingly short tonight. That was ridiculous.
It looked like a practice, like they were practicing moves.
Yeah. Who do y'all think Maxine Dupri is going to be next week? Someone from NXT. Starting to enjoy Theory's character work. I mean, Theory's owning it. I don't like Austin Theory, but I don't think you're supposed to like him. And that viral thing with his shoulder blades tonight, the way it was like popping when he was flexing, like he's double jointed shoulder blades or something. Like, it's just double jointed. That's always a kid. You remember that as a kid, you'd have like the friend who's like, I'm double jointed. See what I can do. You're like, what the hell is going on here? You are an alien.
That was wild. And Alexa Bliss is double jointed, and sometimes she uses that to make it look like she broke her arm.
That's fine, but I'm talking about, everyone knew the kid that could turn his eyelids inside out and they would stay that way.
Yeah.
Or
Jeffrey Weinrich.
See, everybody had at least one in their class. But let's talk about Maxine Dupri before we offend the double jointed community. Is there a double jointed community?
Oh, we'll hear from them.
Okay, we'll hear from the DJs.
There you go again. One slur after another on this podcast.
Maxine Dupri is going to be part of the summer. Max Dupri's sister is going to debut next week. Now, I saw tonight online a few places mentioned that Solo Sikoa and Tiffany Stratton were at NXT we're at SmackDown tonight. I hope it's not Tiffany Stratton because she's got a good thing going on. I could see her, though, putting her as Max Dupri's sister because they think Maximum Male Models is getting over, and she definitely would fit that type.
I think she'd be perfect for this, especially as long as she started out in more of a managerial capacity, didn't wrestle as much, and got to just showcase her character. I think she is a perfect fit in terms of a mean girl, very materialistic for somebody who would only be into models and only be talking of models. I think that'd be great, but I actually want them to go absurd. I want it to be like Amari Miller, and they just don't even explain how they're brother and sister. I want it to be a black woman like they do with, like the show Louis was on for years, and his wife was black, and they never explained it. Or his ex-wife, we had these white kids with, never explained it at all. He just happened to have a black wife with these white kids.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think it'd be cool if they do something unexpected with it. But in my mind, like Tiffany Stratton's the super obvious choice.
I think that's a great choice. Yes.
Alison Tuckwab, $9.99, saying it's going to be fun to see what the wrestlers are going to come up with. Someone told me it's coming up this Monday, the change to TV-14. So
that was the initial report, that it was going to be effective immediately, really, that Monday the 18th is the date for TV-14, but it's being reported that that's not going to be the date. There's been a lot of back and forth with this story, so we're just going to have to look at when the rating flashes and what it is. But it is pretty eminent that they're going to TV-14.
Yeah, Rin's suggesting Lash Legend.
Let's get it. Let's go.
Someone was saying, is that Ginny from NXT UK? I saw speculation on that online as well.
Oh, possibly. Was she backstage?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm just curious. Just curious what they're gonna do with this. So okay, let's Ginny Couture. Everyone is saying. Yes, everyone right now furiously Googling Ginny Couture because they don't watch NXT UK. Oh yeah, Ginny Couture, cool look. Yes. That would be cool. Okay, so anything else in the news?
Nothing else in the news. We're all caught up.
There we go.
Good look.
Okay, so SmackDown tonight, we open with Pat McAfee talking about Corbin attacking Money in the Bank. He remembers being roommates with Corbin when they were rookies for the Colts. Corbin appeared on the Titantron, looking ill, bruises on his arm, said it might be monkeypox, timely. But then he introduced Liv Morgan, who got a fantastic babyface pop.
Yes, this is a fine segment. They went back and forth. I will say this about Pat McAfee. He is the babyface in this feud, and he continues to be great on the mic, and I think this is going to be a good match. But the story of this feud is Pat McAfee mouthing off about Happy Corbin, calling him bum-ass Corbin, really unprovoked, and then getting jumped. Like, why should we be sympathizing with Pat McAfee for this when he just got a receipt? But I'm sure this is going to be a good match. And I like that. Listen, Liv Morgan, and they know this, continues to be very popular. And she calls herself the underdog in this feud with Ronda Rousey. I think a lot of people would be shocked if she lost and furious. This could be like a Daniel Bryan moment for her if she was to lose to Ronda Rousey. And I very much expect her to win. So I don't consider her the underdog at all.
But Pat McAfee, I knew kids like this in school. Hell, I was a kid like this who would sometimes like talk shit about someone. They would beat you up and be like, stay down. And you'd be like, wait, I just saw something else funny to say about like your mom. So I respect that, Pat McAfee. I understand Pat, you know?
He likes kicking them when they're down.
Yeah, but okay. Liv Morgan, huge pop. Love to see it. She took out Natalya, beat Natalya. Short match, good match. But Liv, like, this has been a long time coming. I think that WWE did not recognize for the longest time how much organic babyface support she had. And then I think it honestly got to the point where they couldn't ignore it anymore, because you would see on social media, a lot of times wrestlers post things on social media that come across passive aggressive or complaining about their spot on the roster, and there's nothing they could do. But I think in Liv's case, like, she managed to not piss off creative or the powers that be enough anytime that she shared her disappointment with the fans, and it just got her more over to where everybody wants to see her get the opportunity. And when she got it, when she won, I mean, just incredible.
Yeah, everybody from every level of wrestling was proud and happy to see Liv succeed like this. And I could actually see WWE do this reverse psychology thing where they say, well, if we beat Liv, Twitter is going to be furious and everybody's going to have her name trending #1, and it's going to make her into a bigger baby face because they're going to be so mad, just like Bryan Danielson. When, like, I get that kind of line of thinking, but it's not productive, and I think it would be overthinking themselves, and I really hope they don't go that direction just to get that kind of Daniel Bryan type grassroots. Everybody's going to be pissed at us, so we're going to make them more over.
It shouldn't be Ronda, though. It should actually be Lacey.
That could work. I mean, I think if Ronda won, it would definitely turn Ronda heel, but Ronda is kind of a golden child within WWE. So I think it would be easier for people to hate that decision. With Lacey Evans, I think she could run with that. And I mean, I forgot how good she is at cutting these heel promos because she's been this babyface for so long. But I'm here for heel Lacey Evans.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that would be phenomenal. So yes, we had Austin Theory backstage. Paul Heyman was talking. Man, Paul Heyman is just carrying the bloodline with these promos and all his interactions tonight. Because of course there's gonna be a last man standing match at SummerSlam. He doesn't want Theory to cash it in. Oh, let's talk about this in a segment rivaling the old day. If you don't go to YouTube, if you never saw the old day, we had the New Day come out as the Viking Raiders.
Yes, and they wore their Viking Raider garb. I've seen better.
And then the Viking Raiders came out. The Viking Raiders shouldn't talk. They should just like grunt and growl. Why were they out there speaking?
It was a little more high pitched too, their voices, than I expected. They didn't even put on an affect. They just sounded like normal guys, and it really took away from the mystique. Yeah,
it really did. It really, really did.
Definitely needed more grunting for sure.
This feud is the epitome of mid-card, potentially kick to the pre-show.
Yeah, it seems that they're really trying with the Viking Raiders. They're calling them the new vicious Viking Raiders. And
the vicious Viking Raiders.
I'd imagine they're going to go over the New Day. So that's really seems to be the purpose of this feud, is to get the Viking Raiders over. But they've had so many false starts, I don't think it'd be fine for it.
Rin saying Viking Raiders sounded like the
Geek Squad. They did. They sounded like, can I fix your laptop? I expected to be the next sentence. It was almost jarringly so. Like, it was like, wow, that's what these Vikings sound like?
I mean, New Day was funny. The whole thing when Xavier was talking like a pirate, there were some good moments there, but this was not the heated exchange to build up a really intense feud. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I like them destroying the New Day the past couple of weeks was very impressive and it got them over, but this didn't do much for either team, I don't think.
Gunther chopped Kaiser again.
He's abusive. This is an abusive relationship.
It is abusive, but I like how Gunther was like, "You've disappointed me. It's time. It's time for the chops." I mean, why doesn't he just put him over his knee and paddle him? You know. Hey, TV-14. There you go.
There you go, man. It could be never mind. Yes, we can get a paddling for sure.
We can do it now. So Aaliyah was supposed to face Lacey Evans. We got another Lacey program. I mean, I don't know.
This is another. They didn't have. It seemed like they didn't have a match for like an hour, and this was supposed to be a match, and then it just didn't happen because Lacey Evans cut this promo and they didn't wrestle.
I mean, what does it say that with both now Lacey Evans and the Forgotten Sons that they've been able to have people use like their military service in a gimmick and then proceeded to get them booed or just indifferent by the audience?
Yeah, it might be Vince McMahon's personal problem in the military. Maybe there was a serviceman who bumped into Vince McMahon and spilled his coffee that we don't know about, but Vince kind of seems to have an axe to grind against the military.
It's probably some weird principled stand where Vince is like, Muhammad Ali wouldn't serve. And I respected the hell out of that.
He's my hero.
I mean, right? Like Matt Morgan used to tell these stories that like Vince will go on and on about Martin Luther King. And like, as somebody should, Martin Luther King is someone to very much be looked up to, but it's like not what you think of. It's like Vince is going to like sit there and wax with the soliloquy about how much he admires. I mean, it's surprising given some of the content he's put on the air.
If you were to put out a number of names not knowing who his hero was, I think Martin would be at the bottom of that list if he even made it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. But it is weird with Lacey. And even on commentary, they're like, it's really out there booing someone talking about their military.
Yeah. And this is the thing with WWE. They had her positioned as a babyface, and I thought it was going very well. I know Issa was on to her early and didn't like her, quote unquote, complaining, but I thought that these were very harrowing, relatable stories she was telling. She was being a real person, which they don't do much of with baby faces. And they were actually, this is one of the rare instances of WWE doing a good job with a baby face, and they turned her heel the minute they could. She didn't even get to be a baby face once she started wrestling.
But it's really odd. It's like the Sanctimony now, this is like a bad version of Bret Hart's Anti-America thing. Like, this isn't even as good as that, and that wasn't that good. I mean, Bret made some salient points.
Well, I thought it was
but with Lacey was out there where she was just like, I'm not better than everyone else here, but I'm better than you fan. It's just kind of.
That was a weird line.
Yeah, I don't know. I want some meat on this, like some meat and some heat. Like the
meat was as a babyface where she was actually telling her real story about like mental health and abuse. And it was this poignant thing that she was doing that actually meant something. The way Eddie Kingston cuts promos about his mental health and connects with people. But now they're doing a heel, so it has to be this cheap, let's make up a reason as to why she's mad. And whenever they get into that territory where it's not real anymore, then it is going to be cheap.
I don't know. I think if you want to come out there and talk about how the audience like discuss you and they're not as good, like you could be clever. Like there's 1,000 different ways to cut that promo, and this was like almost I'm afraid to say anything specific for fear of it going horribly wrong. So I'm going to just give some very generic platitudes about how I'm better than everyone here and you don't deserve me.
Yeah. It's every heel promo.
Yeah. I mean, why don't she just diss the local sports team while she's at it?
Oh, that's coming. I did think she was good in her delivery. I think and you did hear her say nasties again. So who knows if she's going to go back.
I did like the nasties. The nasties that worked.
I liked her old ring gear so much better than this new gear. I'm not a big fan of people wearing non-traditional. I like actual gear with boots and trunks, like the Jon Moxley look where he's wearing the baggy pants. I've never been a big fan of
that. And Dylan Matthews is pointing out that Kayla Braxton was dissing Liv, saying that her victory over Natty wasn't as dominant as Ronda's last week. That was interesting. Yeah,
Kayla had another moment. I think, it was when she was talking to Liv where she seemed disgusted with I think I might have caught her rolling her eyes when Liv was like walking off or she just seemed not impressed by Liv Morgan. I noticed it. I don't know if it was supposed to happen like that, but
that's a good gimmick, though. That's a good gimmick. You know, they did something with Summer Rae when she made her in-ring debut, because she was a NXT on-air talent, and then she like kind of threw some shade at Paige, and that set up a match. That was how Summer transitioned into wrestling in kayfabe. So yeah, I kind of like Kayla being like passive-aggressive interviewer.
Yeah, we could use any type of person. I mean, she does a good job in her role, but WWE is very limited in how they present their backstage people. They're highly scripted, and scripted ask a lot of dumb questions too. But if she were to actually be able to express her personality, I think it would be better.
Yeah. Drew McIntyre versus Ridge Holland. Drew McIntyre.
So Sheamus does not want to wrestle a match where he would become a number one contender potentially. He just keeps and why does he keep getting chances to do these bait and switches? Why don't they just say, okay, screw you. You don't want this title shot. We're not giving it to you. We'll just give it to Drew. Why does he get to keep baiting and switching?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm rereading the show and remembering what I watched, and I was just like, very little in tonight's show actually made sense.
Yeah. I agree.
They put on a TV, like they are contractually obligated to the Fox network to give them 2 hours with commercials every Friday, and they met that contractual obligation tonight. Nowhere in the contract does it say it has to be good.
Just got to fill the letter of the law.
Yes. Theory versus Madcap Moss, the future of WWE match. Which
God, did they hammer that over your head?
Yeah, Madcap beat Theory with the briefcase for a DQ.
Good to see young guys out there getting it. I mean, I know Madcap is on the younger side, but he's been with WWE, I think, for 10 years now. And they're finally doing something with him. So, hey, it's good to see them showcasing these guys. I will say, to the point made earlier, I think from Allison, Theory is getting better, I think. I think he's getting a little more comfortable. He's definitely being hot-shotted in this role, and I think that's where a lot of the resentment comes from. But I do think that he's starting to connect a little bit. There was like actual Theory sucks chants, and he was doing a good job working the crowd tonight.
Theory is a very polished version of something I'm not into.
It's a good way of putting it. There's nothing yet, because they haven't really done anything to make you care. That comes with time. So there's nothing yet that I can hang my hat on with Theory and be like, oh, man, you got to see this guy. But, I mean, at least they're picking somebody. It's
the same reaction I had to the band Hoobastank. This is a very polished version of something I'm not into.
A lot of apathy. Me too.
Yeah. Austin Theory is the Hoobastank of professional wrestling.
Nobody aspires to that. And I've never thought of it that way, but I think that's very accurate.
Hey, that stupid The Reason song, which sounds like it was written by AI, back before AI was a thing. Like, I'm sure they're set for life, whoever wrote that song. So let's talk about Sami Zayn, or as my wife called him, the Angry Safoan. F-A-U-X, who is out there tonight as a member of the Bloodline, which I love this. I love Sami Zayn out there speaking for the Bloodline, acting like he's Roman's right-hand man. And they were like, so you talked to Roman? And he's like, well, it's been a minute, you know?
He was great on commentary. This Bloodline B squad, you know, when Roman Reigns is on TV, Sami Zayn and Paul Heyman, they're able to create some pretty entertaining television. So good on Sami Zayn and Paul Heyman. But wasn't Sami banned from SmackDown? Didn't he lose a match where he had to leave and go to Raw? Wasn't that a thing like literally a month ago?
Did that happen?
I believe it did. I can't remember who he lost to, but he lost to somebody. I think it was Shinsuke, where the stipulation was that he had to go to Raw, where he was no longer allowed on SmackDown.
Huh. Well,
but a couple weeks ago. It's a long-term storytelling.
He was on commentary tonight. It was good. It was entertaining. And then Sammy's trying to talk Theory out of cashing in also. So the Usos came out and we had Angelo Dawkins versus Jimmy Uso, and the suspense was who was going to be the special surprise guest referee for the rematch between the Street Profits and the Usos at SummerSlam. Angelo Dawkins won his solo match against Jimmy Uso. There was speculation. Could this be Solo Sikoa? Could this be Naomi? Could this be some new, exciting, fresh face? And we got that hot up-and-comer Jeff Jarrett, Double J, announced as the guest referee for the match at SummerSlam.
I get the Nashville, Tennessee connection, but like in this feud with the Usos and the Street Profits, this comes out of absolute nowhere. It's like selecting Jeff Sessions to host the Source Awards. I don't understand where Jeff Jarrett fits into this feud, but hey, we're in Nashville. I don't know why he had to be a guest referee in this match, but what are you going to do?
He's musical. Let's have the Usos had an awesome freestyle battle against the New Day before. Oh. Let's do that with the Street Profits, and let's have Jeff Jarrett moderate that.
I would love to see that. I would love to see even Hot 16 out of Jeff Jarrett to get us started.
And then it turns out Jeff Jarrett's lip syncing, and it's our truth.
Oh my God! Why are we booking this product?
I know. Like, yeah. Here's how it would go. This would be my trajectory in writing for WWE. I'm gonna just suggest the wildest, stupidest shit, and they're either gonna fire me week 1 or they're just gonna put it on the air.
I like that. It's like
it's just either gonna work or I'm gone.
Yeah,
But yes. Jeff Jarrett lip syncing to our truth. Need to make that happen.
That would be so great.
Yes. So that was tonight on the SmackDown. I mean, I feel like SmackDown to get to the end of the week in WWE is just really phoning it in.
Yes, it very much came across like that this week and last week, where it's like they're trying to get out of having matches. They would go long stretches. And this happened partly on Raw, too, where it's just promo after promo after promo and not a lot of wrestling. So I don't know what's going on, whether it's maybe people are getting hurt, so they're getting a little gun shy and they want to protect people, or they want to keep a certain amount of people on TV so they don't have to pay people. I don't know what's going on, but there's not been a lot of wrestling lately, and it's been standing out. I'm not one of these people who needs all this wrestling, but it stood out. The show drags, actually, when this happens, when people are just talking for most of it.
They could do more with this. It just felt very much like an obligation.
Mm-hmm.
Much like Back to the Future 2. I've been reading the visual history of the Back to the Future series. And Robert Zemeckis says straight up in the book, I was really excited about making part 3, and I just sort of got through part 2 so I can make part 3.
Wow. That checks out. That makes sense.
I was rewatching part 2 last night. Part 2 has some freaking odd choices. Some crazy moments where it's just like, I respect that they went back into the first film. That was really cool. Future thing, great idea, really subpar execution. But whether it's just the little lines in there where the biggest one being the like, hey, I think he took his wallet. I think he took his wallet. Just like weird, like you watch it, there's at least like 8 or 9 weird moments in that film that you're like, okay, somebody's just trolling with this. And they were like, they'll probably get cut, but let's just shoot it anyhow. And it somehow stayed in the film.
Doesn't that make it, you don't think it made it better?
I had such high hopes for Back to the Future 2. And part 3, I was like, I remember riding my bike to the theater opening day and I was like, I'm seeing this because I'm hoping it's better. And I loved part 3. But I'm not a Western guy, but I loved part 3. I thought part 3 had a lot of heart, really good story. Had the spirit of the first one, but the first one I think is a perfect movie, but the second one is just like a bit of a cluster F of ideas.
Yeah, definitely the in-between one.
Yeah. And but I have to say, rewatching it, I don't know the last time you watched it, you know who doesn't get enough credit, especially for Back to the Future 2, but 2 and 3, is Tom F. Wilson playing young Biff. Old Biff, Dark Timeline Biff, Griff, Old West Biff, or Buford. Like, Tom Wilson has remarkable range in that movie.
Yeah, and Biff was based on Donald Trump.
Yeah, the Biff horrific timeline, as they call it in the book. But I recommend this visual history book. I picked this up for like $20 on Amazon. It comes with a lot of like souvenirs inside that come out, including like the a lentacular flip of Marty and his siblings. Yeah. It comes with like the letter in an envelope that Marty wrote to Doc. Like it's got like 20 things in the book that you can tear out of the book. Wow. And like keep as a little prop souvenir, and they're really high quality.
That sounds dope.
Yeah, it's a very cool book. Glad I picked it up. So let's talk about Rampage. Fighter Fest continues. Can you believe they're keeping this Fighter Fest joke going 2 years later?
Yeah, and they're going to do it next week too.
So this was taped Wednesday. I don't know about you. I was tuning in tonight because I wanted to see about the Acclaimed and the Gun Club. But even that, because it was live, like, again, the one thing AEW, I think, has a challenge with on Friday is there's not enough that's happening at these tapings that's got people buzzing about, oh my God, you've got to tune in Friday, or they're not using TV to their advantage and taping backstage stuff to surprise people.
Yes. That's a good point. They've got to create must-watch television, and Rampage is the opposite of that. You talk about getting to the end of the week and phoning it in. I wouldn't say Rampage necessarily does that, but the audience does, because this is the last hour of, I believe, 10 hours of wrestling in a week. And so people really need a reason. And we've seen that with the viewership of Rampage. They need a reason to tune in to this programming. When they had that battle royal with the 2 rings, people were interested in that. People actually watched that. They did one of their better numbers. It wasn't a great number, but it was definitely one of their better numbers that they've done in a few months. But it really tends to settle in that low 400, high 300 range, because Rampage just seems like an exhibition. It seems pretty much like Dark.
Yeah, and you know what, though? You know what's funny? I hear people talk about Dark and Elevation more than I hear people talk about Rampage.
Yeah, especially on social media, because I don't know if it's because it happens during the day where people are they're at their cubicles at their offices, not necessarily out and about on a Friday night.
Oh, I've noticed that. I mean, in fact, wrestling Twitter, I'm sure you've noticed this too. It's like you could have something non-wrestling related, but if you or I were to tweet that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday in the afternoon, like, we're going to get eyeballs. We're going to get interaction. You could have the best, the most fire tweet on earth on Thursday and nothing, crickets.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
The wrestling audience stays off social media on days when there's not programming they care about.
Definitely. Whenever those days are there, whether it's before, during, or after, they're just on Twitter. I think maybe that's how the ecosystem works, and WWE knows that. So that's when they put all that stuff out there that they know is going to create conversation.
Yeah. So tonight was night 2 of Fyter Fest week 1. Malakai Black and Brody King with Julia Hart versus John Silver and Alex Reynolds. Were you surprised Malakai and Brody got that win?
I was not. That was a stiff-looking pile driver at the end. I mean, because I grew up in the 90s, I think every 90s kid cringes when they see that move, because that's a move that almost paralyzed Stone Cold Steve Austin. And, geez, it looked close. It looked like his head landed directly on the mat, but he looked like he was fine after. Alex Reynolds.
So Darby launched a surprise attack on King by leaping off the tunnel. Always cool. Sting came to the ring. Yeah, we got a video package teasing the Miro and the House of Black. Eddie Kingston, Chris Jericho. I am super into this. I love the package we're getting for it. The promos, the recaps. This is going to be huge.
Doing a good job with this. I thought Chris Jericho's promo this past Wednesday was amazing. I thought he was very funny on commentary, talking up Eddie Kingston. They really, really promoted this match on commentary. Partly because Chris Jericho's there, but I think AEW really wants to put a lot behind this. It's going to be barbed wire, everything. It's going to be during Shark Week. They have to have their best foot forward. So we'll see what they do. Hey, this is that TV-14 booking.
Why don't they get a platform and say the water is shark infested and you have to throw the other one off the platform into the shark infested waters?
I would love that. You throw some red dye in there.
My God. And they could fake this so easily. Like, in the 90s, WCW would have done that. They would have done it at Universal Studios in the Jaws ride.
Yes.
They would. Yeah. But come on.
I would love that.
Shark Week.
Get some prop sharks in there. I would absolutely love that. And then let's say Jericho loses a match. He gets torn up. He just comes back next week and says, I'm a wizard. That's how I survived that, because I'm a wizard. And then we move on.
A shark attack is a brilliant way to write someone off TV for a while.
Yeah, that's how they should have written us 2 dimes off TV.
Oh my God. That's good. Why aren't we running this? I need to call Billy Corgan or Freddie Prinze or somebody and be like, hey, look, I'll work for next to nothing. Just give me a small equity stake, because I got ideas, man.
Yeah, I'll send some stuff in. I'll zoom it in.
Yeah, seriously.
They could. So they have the NXT parking lot, which is very dangerous. AEW could have the shark infested water where people fall in there when they're ready to go off TV.
Why don't they have a floor is lava match?
that'd be fire.
Low hanging fruit, you know. I don't know. They gotta do something. They gotta do something. Yeah. Edward Cousins for WWE, Brock Lesnar would F5 a Shark. I would love to see that. That would be so cool.
They're not doing enough with sharks in wrestling. I agree.
By the way, did you hear on SmackDown commentary tonight? I felt like they were trolling the audience on that Austin Moss match, because within the span of like a minute, they said TNT, Dynamite, and Impact.
Did they really?
Yeah, on commentary.
I remember them saying Impact. I didn't notice the other two.
Yeah. They say Impact fairly regularly, but it was weird when it was TNT, Dynamite, and Impact. That's where I was just like...
That's a crazy coincidence to be having.
Yeah. I mean, like, why not go all the way at that point? You know? Be like, this is some major league wrestling we've got going on right now. You know?
Don't Tony Khan me out of my time.
So Jonathan Gresham with Tully Blanchard versus Lee Moriarty for the Ring of Honor World Championship. I feel like the Ring of Honor World Championship gets defended on AEW television more than the AEW Women's Championship does.
100%, I would say it does. And I thought this was a good match that nobody cared about.
What do you think is holding Gresham back from connecting with the audience more?
I don't even think it's a connecting with the audience thing. Nobody knows who he is. They finally got him back on television. And so I think people are just looking at him. I know the hardcore fans know who he is. And I know a lot of people in that building knew. But in terms of creating a television character and a match that we're going to care about, why are they fighting each other? How did Lee Moriarty become the number one contender? You know, I know Jonathan Gresham turned on him last week, but they have given us no reason to believe that they are even a team, because they were never a team. There was really never a feud here. So they just threw this match at us, and good on him. I mean, I think he's definitely talented. He literally legit is one of the best technical wrestlers.
He's very athletic,
if not the best technical wrestler in the world. But they've done nothing to make you care about him or ROH.
Yeah. Well, and so speaking of which, Claudio Castagnoli came out, and him before Gresham, that is going to be like the ultimate wrestling nerd match ever.
It's going to be great. I mean, Lord knows how high Claudio could throw Gresham in the air before one of those uppercuts. He might go up into the third deck.
I was going to say, might hit a light or something. I don't know. It could go.
That's going to be a good match, though. If they go forward with that, and that's an ROH match that they're having, good on them. They just need to tell us the story. And he did say he's going to be here every week. Those were his words, that he's going to be on TV every week. So if he's able to do that, I have no doubt that he's going to be able to get over.
Athena and Chris Statlander wrestled Robin and Charlotte Renegade, and they won the match. And me saying that sentence was actually longer than this match lasted.
Yeah, this is a very quick match. Did a couple of spots. It was whatever. I
mean, they're still building it with Jade and Athena, you know, and they had Chris and Athena staring down Kira and Jade. I mean, I think they're still doing a great job with the baddie section and Jade. I just think that these squashes being like the setup for then the actual feud after, I don't know that this is working as well as they think it is.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job making Jade into a star. I have no problem with her winning squash matches just to make her look that much more dominant. But I do think that she needs to be wrestling more. I mean, she's getting more TV time and appearing here. And I really don't like what they're doing with this angle with Stokely. I think that they should be on the same page because they just got together. But I'm fine with it. I just thought it was very weird how the heels ran in there and just easily disposed of these baby faces, just really hurting their credibility. And they're not just anybody. Athena and Chris Statlander are supposed to be two top-tier faces in the division. And Jade and Kira just went in there like it was nothing and just disposed of them.
So the Gun Club explained why they turned on the Acclaimed, but they didn't really.
They did. You know, it was mostly Billy Gunn in.
But there's a time when Daddy has to drop the hammer.
Pause.
I mean, what's the explanation?
It was. I don't know what the exact. I think it was just he did it better when he said blood is thicker than water. I think it was last week. So that's the explanation I'm willing to take. But they really didn't say much of anything in this. And Max Caster did have a freestyle, but it was a cappella. Which, it's fine. It's okay. I just like that Acclaimed beat. He
should have really said that, you know, we just feel disrespected. We are not ass boys. We are ass men. And you will treat us with the respect we deserve.
That'd be a great reason to turn on somebody. Which, by the way, shout out to Anthony Bones in this segment. Right now on Forbes, I have an interview with the great Fred Rosser, the first openly gay WWE superstar, but now New Japan Strong Openweight champion. He said to me that he wants to scissor with Anthony Bones. Words coming out of his mouth. They really should have had a Forbidden Door match. It was during Pride Month, AEW versus New Japan. It seemed perfect. It would be a historic pay-per-view match. I think it could have been great. But Fred Rosser and Anthony Bones, I think, is going to be a match that we see sometime in the future. I
love the Acclaim getting that babyface reaction tonight.
Yeah, they're going to be huge baby faces. They're not going to be able to deny these guys. FTR, if I'm FTR right now, I'd be a little nervous. FTR, they're the most over tag team probably in wrestling right now, and they're riding high. But when those babyface Acclaim guys come for you, I'd be very nervous.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be good. This main event tonight, Lucha Bros versus the Private Party. What did you think of this? Pretty lengthy match.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to see Rey Fenix. He's one of my favorites, if not my favorite in AEW. And this was a good match with Private Party. I love how they temporarily reunited this HFO tag team that everybody forgot about. I forgot that they were even an entity. But they are reunited for one night only, as if that means anything. And this was a good match. Private Party is really good when they get those opportunities. But I'm just glad to see Phoenix and Penta back together. This was fine. This was a good match, good way to end the show. But again, a lot of these matches and pairings are very random, and they give you no reason to care about them.
Yeah, it was a good main event. Private Party, I think, is one of those that I believe there's a overwhelming sentiment that AEW kind of put them on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's good to see them getting like a main event match. So this was a good end of the week. This was very exciting. And I mean, Lucha Bros getting the win. It is what it is. But the problem with Rampage is not a lack of quality wrestling or talent.
Definitely. That's not the problem with this whole business. It is coming down to the storytelling, the amount of content, the night that it's on. And the fact that Rampage is now promoted as the B show. It is a clear B show, so people aren't going to be as incentivized to watch. Tomorrow might be a Fast Nationals day. You might be hearing from me tomorrow. Tomorrow might be a Fast National Saturday. I don't know if this it went down considerably last week, so maybe there's room to improve. But I was watching this show like, man, what is going to keep people tuning into this?
Now, when the streets give you the Fast Nationals, do they come on a charcuterie board, or is it like text, or what's the methodology?
It is a beautifully wrapped charcuterie board, sometimes with ribbons, like gourmet ribbons that they use. And last week it came
meat ribbons.
Yes, with Pacheco. Meat ribbons. I mean, you got to check some of this stuff out, and it goes bad. I can't eat it all. So I'll have a couple of cubes of cheese, then I got to throw it away. It's very sad, but a new one's coming, so I think I'm gonna be enjoying some charcuterie tomorrow.
Cheeses and fancy meats and whatnot. Like I've been into home like pickling things lately. It's kind of the same thing. Like there's a fine line between peak deliciousness and oh no, this is bad, and like I must throw this away because this will make me violently ill if I eat it.
Yeah, especially with like blue cheese where it's already bitter, so it takes you a little bit.
Yeah. So here's what I've been doing with bread lately, because down 30 pounds now, watching the carbs.
Hey,
we get we call it the Bible bread, but it's the Ezekiel bread. Apparently not a religious company. They just they use some biblical inspiration for the simple ingredients. It's low sodium. So I get the loaf of that. We never make it through a loaf in a week. Always throwing away at least half a loaf of bread. So now I divided it in thirds and freeze 2/3 of it and then have the other one. And it's like, oh my God, in 2 weeks, I've actually almost made it through a loaf of bread.
Wow.
It's very exciting.
So this is just like regular carb bread, you're saying, or is this like the substitute?
Well, so the Ezekiel bread, it has lower carbs, but the carbs that it does have are whole grains, sprouted grains, like better for like the good carbs, the stuff you want to eat. I make a nice little avocado toast with it. I put some black cumin seed on it. I put as a little pickled onion on the avocado, eat it that way. It's tasty. It's good. I take my vitamins. I take my supplements with it because they're better absorbed when you eat fat. So with the avocado, it's a good little mix. Okay. But yeah, the Ezekiel bread, very low in sodium, very tasty. They have a flax bread. I think is delightful.
Oh, sounds good. I'll check that out. I eat keto bread, which is, I really can't tell the difference.
Yeah, this is kind of along those lines. Like it's not compensating for the lack of carbs with fat the way all keto stuff does.
Yeah.
But no, I buy a lot of keto friendly products. You taking the MCT? Yeah, doing the MCT oil?
No. I haven't taken that, but I do a lot of keto friendly products for sure.
Yeah.
How are you doing MCT?
Doing MCT, 5 grams a day in my coffee. I get the powder, not because you could just have coconut oil. You could just literally put coconut oil in your coffee. It's a little high in saturated fat, but I do 2 scoops of the powder mixed in with the coffee. Can't really taste it. It's good. But yeah, but I had to cut down on supplements. I was taking too many supplements where I was like, this is not healthy. The level of supplements I'm putting in my body. My kidneys are working overtime to process all this.
Getting all jacked up, huh?
Well, no, I mean, because here's the thing. I have non-alcoholic fatty liver. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. A lot of people have it. Like 50% of the population has it. You read online, everybody's saying like, I took artichoke leaf extract. It reversed my fatty liver. I took black licorice root. It reversed my fatty liver. I've read like 30 things. And then when you Google a supplement name and any disease or any affliction, there's that NIH health site that comes up, .gov. There's always a study. There's always at least one study that supports everything. Well, they found that, scientifically this reduced this. They saw improvement in this. So my thought was like, well, if 20 things work, I'm going to take all 20 things.
Okay. Yeah, one of them will work.
One of them.
I mean, what if 19 of them are like harmful to you?
That's what I found out with some stuff, because some of it was like, oh no, black licorice root, like fennel root, the drop, like bad for your kidneys, apparently. Like too much turmeric, bad for your kidneys.
Are you a black licorice guy?
I think that's something that comes with age. Because as a child, you taste black licorice and you're just like, but I have some recipes and stuff that use fennel seed. Because fennel seed, I mean, that's the black licorice taste. When used correctly, it can be okay. But I never just want to sit there. Like, let me put it this way. I probably can't go through an entire black licorice pack of red vines, but I'll fuck up some cherry red vines.
For sure. I love licorice, but black licorice, I've never been able to do. In fact, speaking of fennel, I was in Portland this past weekend and they had this brewery with fennel. One of the beers had fennel seeds in it, and I just couldn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't do it.
It's good, though, if you get the seed and you like crush it up, like, one of those little, forget what they're called, with like it's the smell is very strong. But what's funny though is because being vegan, when you make like a fake meat sausage substitute, like it's all about fennel seed in the sausage for that flavor. It's very good. But here's what I want to know about AEW. What's going on with MJF? It has been so long now that in my mind, Michael J. Fox has reclaimed those initials.
I don't know what's going on with MJF. It's radio silence all across the board. I don't know if this is part of their plan to make it seem more real, or if they're just gonna tell him to lay low so this thing can blow over and whatever happens. Because I do think that there is a mixture of real life and work shoots with this angle. I do think that whether it's MJF no showing and that being legit and then them making a storyline about it, I don't know where this stopped and where it began in terms of being a storyline, but there's definitely a mixture of that. So that might be what's holding it back. Maybe there is stuff going on behind the scenes, but I mean, they are just not even saying his name. There's no sign of him. And I think it's a mistake, because I was in the building in Inglewood when he cut that promo, and it was the loudest promo I've ever heard in terms of crowd reaction for a promo. I've never heard anything like that live. I've been in the building with a Rock in Ronda Rousey segment, and it was louder than that.
I think TK thinks he's a genius in that, I'm gonna let people forget about it, and then when he shows up, oh my god.
I don't get that. That is counterintuitive to momentum, to pro wrestling. I mean, pro wrestling is dying to be mainstream again, and not that this was really going mainstream, but this did get some attention. I don't think it got the attention that they thought it would. Maybe that's part of the reason why they might be putting it on ice. Because it didn't really blow up on Google Trends or anything like that, but it did get a lot of people talking, and I do think it had the potential, if you kept working with it, to really become something.
Imagine, if you will, an alternate reality where after his groundbreaking guest appearance with a boisterous audience reaction, if the producers of Family Matters had said, "Nah, one Steve Urkel character, that was enough. we got a show to put on about the Winslow family."
Yeah, we're going to stick with our plans. All that cheering and momentum, put it on ice.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy. That's exactly what they're doing. They're putting Steve Urkel in a box.
You got to give the people what they want. You don't see that in TV. When you see a breakout character in TV, the producers cannot wait to get that character back or have talk about that character or say like, oh, we're going to do more. They shot cold opens with Steve Urkel to insert into syndicated episodes that Steve Urkel was not in before he appeared on the show.
That's amazing. So are you saying, so who's the Joe Marie Payton of this situation? The Harriet Winslow? Is that Wardlow, where they're just going to stick with him as being the guy over MJF?
Yes, that's exactly. And Cody Rhodes is like the child they just wrote out. Yeah. We're like, what? We didn't have another kid.
You know, I think we've talked about this. Family Matters is a spinoff of Perfect Strangers.
Yes. Yeah. Watched a lot of Perfect Strangers on the bootleg cable.
Valky was hilarious.
Perfect Strangers is the last great classic sitcom of that 1950s original sitcom formula. That is the last great one that made it on the air, because the 90s saw a lot of innovation and really came away from that. But that show still holds up. Very funny. Dylan Matthews saying, do we think there's a chance MJF shows up in WWE? I mean, that would be phenomenal, but I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of news on that front in terms of his contract, if that's the case. But I think he could show up in WWE, just not anytime soon, just in 2024 maybe. But I think he'll come back. I think they do have a plan. Actually, I don't think they have a plan, because a lot of people go on ice in AEW. They've just got such a big roster that sometimes people get shuffled out. And I think this just lasted longer than they thought it would. And I don't think they know what they're doing or where they're going to be going with the storyline.
But this isn't like the librarian hasn't been on TV in a while, or like, oh, they dropped the ball on Marco Stunt. This was the hottest story up until like the last month when, all hell broke loose. This was the hottest story in professional wrestling for the first half of 2022. Yes,
it was very hot. And I'm dying to know the mentality and the thinking behind this. I'm sure Tony Khan, on one of those media scrums, if anybody has the balls to ask him this question, should press him on why it took him so long to bring back MJF, what was going on behind the scenes that made you think it was a good idea to wait, because maybe there is a story to that.
Yeah, look, nobody is pressing Tony Khan at those media scrums.
Yes, I will say, Nick Hausman of our own Wrestling Inc., Nick Hausman, he always has the best questions, and he's the one who the past 2 pay-per-views has asked about MJF. But other than that, it's just another fan fest with those media scrums. But hey, get it how you live.
And that's part of the problem, though, is that I think the media covering it, I mean, almost wants to play into the like they want to keep it kayfabe.
Of course. They want questions about, oh, how did you get over so well? And you never really hear anybody press. Somebody needs to ask Tony Khan, hey, you got an update about those anti-AEW bots, and how would Elon Musk's potential purchase of Twitter change that? I might pull up on one of these things. I might pull up on one of these audio ones. They told me to stay my black ass home for the media scrum, but they invite me to those audio calls. I might pull up on one of these things. Stay tuned to those.
Yo, TK, could we potentially get a line of, the dual AEW vest over the NFL jacket? Like, can we make that? Will you sell those perhaps as a pair at the Jaguar Stadium?
$25, $75. Will you sell me a combo NFL Jaguars X AEW vest? That's all I want to know.
Please get into a media scrum. Get a dial in from somebody.
Oh, I can get the code. I can get on the phone call. I might get on the next phone call, because I do have some real questions for Tony.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you have some get the one-on-one interview for Forbes. Make it happen.
I've interviewed him before. This was in better days between us. But listen,
this is going to be like Vince McMahon, like slapping Bob Costas, or looking like he was about to. So, okay, before we really get in trouble, we got to wrap this up. Alfred is at This Is Nasty. I'm at Glenn Rubenstein. Have a good weekend, everyone. Watch Back to the Future too. It's fucking weird, man. Have a good one. We'll catch you next week on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.